And Kailey, the headline here, Trump denied immunity in D.C. election case by appeals court. What do we know so far?
Well, this is a case the president has been making for some time, the former president, that is, that he is immune from prosecution in the case that special counsel Jack Smith brought here in Washington, charging him with efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election, that he should be immune from that prosecution as a former president, that the actions he took as president of the United States should be protected. The appeals court has now ruled against that argument, saying he is not, in fact, immune. And so this decision will now be on hold until February 12th, 6 days from now. So the president has a chance, the former president has a chance to appeal it potentially to the Supreme Court. So this doesn't mean that this is over entirely yet. And keep in mind that the trial in this case that Jack Smith brought was slated to start on March 4th. Just last week, the judge in the case, Judge Tanya Chutkan, vacated that trial date because we were awaiting this immunity decision. So now we will have to wait and see if the former president does indeed appeal this case. Again, he will have 6 days to do so. Then, depending on how that appellate process plays out, ultimately, if this does indeed get heard by the Supreme Court, who would then have to decide whether or not to rule on this matter. At that point, once all of this is resolved, is when this trial could actually move forward. So again, here we're talking about a process that could take some time to play out and potentially further delay the start of that trial that the former president will ultimately have to face here in Washington.
Well, Kailey, like you said, he, of course, has 6 days to appeal this decision. And, of course, we're not just talking about the former president. He is the front runner for the Republican nomination. How does the legal timeline match up, of course, with the campaign timeline?
Well, with the initial trial date that was slated to start on March 4th, which will not be happening anymore, that's the day before Super Tuesday, which is a very important primary day in the Republican primary race. So this potentially gets pushed out later on into later in the election cycle, when we could actually be talking about him not just as the presumptive Republican nominee, but potentially the actual Republican nominee, where he'll have to balance being on the campaign trail with days in court. Also keeping in mind that he has to balance financing here. It was revealed in the filings at the end of January that in the year 2023, Trump's campaign and super PACs supporting him spent $50 million on his legal fees. We know he has been raising money off of each and every indictment that he has faced, people making contributions to support his legal defense. But this is taking a lot of outflow, money that therefore won't be spent on campaign, on things like advertisements, usually where you would see campaign dollars going. It's not just a matter of managing the timeline here, but also managing the financing around it, as this case in Washington is just one of 4 felony cases he is facing, keeping aside all of the other civil issues he is facing as well.